Just to keep with the reaction coming out of The Hague this afternoon, joining us is Thato wa Magogodi, International Relations Scholar and Managing Director of the Kgodiso Setšhaba Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, you have written before about the rise of the new world. Would you say today's decision by the ICJ solidifies this track to a new world order? And what does it look like?
Well, good afternoon, and good afternoon to your listeners too. I concur that the outcome of today's judgment at The Hague contributes to the evidence that the world is moving towards a multipolar world, where the U.S. ceases to be a hegemon, and that its interests in very important matters of international consequence are slowly, or rather slowly dwindling. And this case today and the outcomes given from The Hague demonstrate that indeed the influence of the U.S., which in this case is the U.S. is obviously Palestinian, rather an Israeli ally. It has evidence that indeed there is a tectonic shift in global affairs. And I don't know if you know that the Peace Palace in The Hague is the only principal UN organ that is not located in New York. And this has given it some semblance and space to exercise independence, far away from the normal checkbook diplomacy of the U.S. when cases like this are sitting, because they are worried of the consequence of this case and what it means to the advent of multipolarity in the world. This is not just a case about Palestine and Israel fighting, but it is an important case that would have dire consequences for the shape of where the globe is going towards a new world.
And speaking of the shift in global affairs that you refer to as well, this does add to that body of evidence to see this shift from the global south wanting more power for itself, wanting more independence for itself and more sovereignty for itself. Do you see this shift having some sort of a ripple effect on countries that have been aiding and abetting this war, like the UK and the United States?
Say that again?
Do you find that this shift that you speak of, the geopolitical shift, as we're seeing more and more countries also side with the global south on various matters, not just Palestine and Israel, as we've, rightfully mentioned now, do you find that this pressure, this mounting pressure from other countries who are also saying enough is enough with having this hegemony, we should actually be rather having a multipolarized geopolitical system, do you find that the US and powers like the UK are feeling that pressure now?
Absolutely. This is a David and Goliath situation. Who would have thought that a small country from the global south like South Africa would take on the big powers? Remember, Israel is remote controlled by the US in all its deeds. The US puts $3 billion USD in that war that is happening in Palestine. So what this has meant, or what this case means, is that countries of the South are beginning to show their hand, and they're beginning to say, no more will we be listening to Uncle Tom dictating to us what must happen and what views do we have, particularly on issues of human rights. And obviously this will begin to go to bigger matters of international consequence, like the international political economy and the control of resources. What we need to know is that this conflict in the Middle East and Palestine in particular is a conflict that is based on the control of the world. But secondly, it is a conflict about the control of the resources of the world. Remember, at play here are underlying issues about the gas fields and the oil fields in Palestine. That is what this conflict is about. Masqueraded, of course, and closed off as a conflict that seems to be dealing with cultural issues and ethnic issues. We know that at the center of these issues is the base superstructure model where the economic issues are at the center for the control of the world. And indeed, what will happen from here is that South begins speaking. There will be obviously cautiousness on the part of the big powers. They will know that these countries mean business, and I think South Africa in this case has set the record straight that the South means business in ensuring that the issues of the downtrodden in the world are raised at the platform of the ICJ.
Yes, indeed, South Africa really has shown its hand and shown that it really does mean business. Thank you so much for your insights and your time this afternoon. That was Thato wa Magogodi, International Relations Scholar and Managing Director of the Kgodiso Setšhaba Foundation.